people? Marco here, and today we're going to be doing the Vengeance by Paradigm. Alright, so this is essentially sort of an upgrade to the Magma in a way, because this is what it looks like inside. Alright, it's a quad pole, which seems to be the in thing nowadays when it comes to drippers. But essentially it is still a Magma. Yeah, if you know what I'm saying. It works pretty much the same way, with a few exceptions and a few changes made, which we're going to talk about. So it is made of 304 grade stainless steel, including the standard cap for your 510 drip tips, for your standard stuff. It features a domed cap on both the Delrin Cloud Chase cap that it comes with, and the stainless steel one right there. Okay, the poles, if you take a look at it, it screws out, and I'm just gonna take it all apart and show you. This is the airflow control ring, and the airflow slots feed from the bottom, right there, onto channels on the deck right here. There are some air holes situated underneath each coil, so you can have it aligned directly with it, so the air intake is bottom fed. Yeah, everything is with everything is threaded down except for the airflow control ring, which snaps on just like that. Okay, the airflow, or the air hole channels, compared to the Magma, are angled, so they shoot in diagonally. And the reason for that is because the Magma, when it came out, had leaking issues, which I discussed in my video for that device. This setup is made in such a way that it prevents leaking, although it still does tend to from time to time, which I'm going to talk about later as well. It's the posts, and I won't be able to show you that because I'm going to have to take my build out, but basically the posts have their holes at angles, so they're sort of split this way. It's diagonally oriented so that the poles, or the wires, the leads that you stick in, don't go all the way out. You know, they don't go through and through, so they're angled diagonally, facing opposite directions. So one of them facing somewhere around 1 o'clock, the other one around 11 o'clock. So that's how the poles are oriented on the inside. It fastens down using flathead screws right there, and the upper portion of the barrel has that V there, V for Vengeance, right over there. The threading on the cap itself has it looking almost exactly like a Magma when you fasten it down. Still just about as tall, except the ring is 22 millimeters in diameter, as is the entire base, versus the Magma, which sort of had a fatter airflow control ring, which sort of jutted out. It looked like a 23 or a 24 mil diameter on it. Now the center is not quite as deep as the Magma as well, although you can tuck your cotton in there so that you have it wicking upwards when you drip. That way you don't have to unfasten the entire cap. I would have preferred O-rings, I think, but I don't think that would help much by way of leaking. Now, this atomizer is designed in such a way that you can, well, the airflow selections on the airflow control ring only allow two options. That would be quad coil or dual coil. So if you set it on dual, you only have opposite ones open and the others are all shut out. When you set it on quad, you just turn it one airflow channel to the right or to the left, and you have all four fully opened. So this is more of a, I wouldn't say it's a Cloud Chase Addy, because you're not losing all that much flavor when you use the wide bore cap that it comes with. So this is like a onesie. It's like a one-piece thing. Fastens on using the same threading, except it can get a bit tight because of the nature of Delrin. So there you go. I'm not quite sure about the diameter on the cap, but it is significantly looser than your standard drip tip. There you go. So, whenever I have to drip onto the coil or onto the cotton, I usually just take the whole cap off. Now it can get a bit bitchy sometimes because of that, but that's not really a bad thing because you are able to drip right straight through the cap. I just prefer to do it this way. That way I have my cotton all soaked up because I have it on a quad coil config right now. Normally I just go dual, but for purposes of this video, I decided to build it in a quad before shooting it because it would take too much time if I were to build it that way. Alright, so I'm going to give this a hit on all 4 coils fully open. Excuse me. And give it a shot. So this is on a variable voltage device set to 3.33 volts. Not sure about the read on the coil. I checked it was somewhere in the 0.18 ohm range. So here goes. Okay, so the looseness of the draw when you have it on all 4 holes fully open, it's a lot looser than if you were building on a standard, say a tripole addy or one of the older style atomizers. It's a lot looser than the Magma built on dual coil, of course, because you're getting more air intake, plus you're using a wider tip. Now, when I use the standard cap, I'm not losing that much by way of flavor, but the throat hit and the nicotine delivery are hugely amplified. So here goes. And for some odd reason, so is the flavor retention, which shouldn't really matter, make that much of a difference given the fact that they're both domed and they have roughly the same dimensions. I'm guessing it's because of the narrowness of the standard drip tip versus the wide bore one. The contact, the point of contact, a pin on the very base, is a silver coated copper pin. So underneath you have that cog wheel laser engrave. It's a pretty deep etching, and you have the paradigm name on it plus the serial number. So there you go. That's what it looks like on the bottom. It fits really well on all my boxes, all my tubes, given that it is a 22 mil measurement almost all throughout. Well, actually all the way, with the exception, of course, of the drip tip. So, pros and cons. One thing, well, these are mostly selective. I guess it's because of the way I build, and if you've been following my videos, you know for a fact that I say it time and time again, I could not build multi-coils for shit. I usually prefer just going single coil, although lately dual has been a bit of my speed, but that varies from atomizer to atomizer. Now, I find it a bit difficult to build quads on this, not because of the way the poles are set up or anything like that, but because whenever I pull them, because they are diagonal, whenever I pull the leads through, I sometimes get shorts because without realizing it, I'm not able to snip the wire off all the way. So there are times when one lead would touch another one and it causes like sparking around the posts. Now when I build them dual, I have no problems at all, because you wouldn't build dual coils on this one next to the other. So you see they're situated at 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock right here. Or if you're looking at it from camera's point of view, 12, 3, 6, 9. So when you build them one facing the other, opposite directions that way. So when you build it dual, it's easy as pie. It's very, very simple to do it that way. Another drawback I noticed about the posts is because of the orientation, using thicker gauge wire can get a bit tricky. I tried building it using Omega wires, the saber-tooth ones, really low gauge ones. I tried it with a 0.22 and a 0.20, and I had some difficulty pulling it through. Another drawback that I noticed is that the closeness of the cap or the top barrel onto the versus the edges versus the rims prevents you from using macro coil builds. So if you're going to build with anything wider than say a 2.5 guide for your coils, it will make contact with the top barrel. So it's not gonna, you're not even gonna be able to screw it down. You're not gonna have to worry about shorts because you're not even gonna be able to close the atomizer. That was the first prominent con that I noticed. Personally, I prefer building around thicker guides. I don't know why. Maybe it makes it easier to shoot the cotton in, but I prefer that. That's just me. So I built this around a 2.5 millimeter guide using 0.45 millimeter Canthol wire. So I've had this build in for a couple of days now. This has been a pretty solid build for me. It gets to maximize the whole performance of the atomizer without, without compromising one aspect for another. By that I mean I'm not losing vapor for flavor, I'm not losing flavor for vapor, given the way that the air feeds in and the way that the wicking is set up. Because you get it really soaked up, you get it really saturated. So with about 8 to 10 drops of liquid, and this thing can hold a lot. I mean, check out the depth on that thing. You get a bit of focus on that. It can hold a lot without it flooding out. So because of the diagonal orientation of the slits or the air holes, it makes it almost impossible to flood unless you really over drip it, or if you stick your cotton right down there in the center. So that's usually where my leaks come from. That's it's a selective con based on how I orient my wick. And as you can see, this isn't the prettiest looking thing. I mean, you're not going to see this build anywhere on Coil Porn or any of those groups. It looks like shit the way I built it. But if you are able, if you're used to building multi-coils, quad coils in particular for this kind of setup, you're not going to have any issues. You're not going to have any problems when it comes to that. You may have issues with leaking, although the modders are acutely aware of this con, this sort of drawback to the atomizer. But the cool thing is that the performance really makes up for that. I mean, yes, you will be getting leaks from time to time, but the flavor retention is just amazing. Right now, and I've spoken with a few people about this. I've talked to some of my friends, and I pretty much hold this in very high regard in terms of flavor retention. This is probably my go-to atomizer when it comes to flavor retention, because of the way that the airflow feeds, the way that the wicks are set up, the distance of the cap from the coils, and the way that the cap is domed. I'm really not sure about the science as to why a domed cap holds more flavor. I guess it's because when the air channels up, into your drip tip, instead of it circulating and then going, up with whatever's left of that vapor, you're getting it siphoned straight into the drip cap or the drip tip, depending on which cap you're using. So for this type of build, so that I get adequate ventilation and so that I get a really, really good amount of throat hit and flavor retention, what I typically do is I simply set it up with a cap on, and God, the retention is just way up there. I can't stress that enough. If you're looking for flavor and very, very respectable amounts of vapor, you're probably best setting it up on a quad and making the most of the drip cap that it comes with. So just give it a few more hits and so you're getting massive plumes, which you couldn't get from the Magma previously. The way that this is set up is that they made it sort of something you could choose between the Magma and the Vengeance, because the price point on this is similar to that on the Magma. I'm going to put it in the description, and I'm going to link to the Paradigm page so that you can inquire about it, because we have to respect the boundaries between the local Philippine market and the international market. So of course, pricing may vary. So it depends on where you pick it up. But the SRP here in the Philippines for the local market is uniform all throughout. The difference being, if you're a single coil type of guy, go for the Magma, or a single or a dual coil type of guy, go for the Magma. It's a lot easier to build it that way, and the Magma has it works almost exactly like this does, except this one offers a whole lot more by way of vapor output. without sacrificing the flavor retention. If you're looking to chase clouds and you still want to get a decent, or no, not decent, but a massive amount of flavor retention, then go for the Vengeance, because that's the whole point of it. That's why it was set up this way. So basically, the only major con that I can get out of it is that it leaks, which is also inherent to the Magma. So the leaking issue, I've never had it leak to the point that it soaks up my bag or it soaks up my pocket or anything like that. Just make sure that it's relatively dry when you lay it on the table or when you put it aside before you go to bed or before you go to work or whatever you're going to do. Just make sure that it's dried out and all. Just bear in mind that although it does have a deep well, it does have exemplary wicking, it's still at the end of the day a dripper, and I said that about the Magma too. Vengeance is a dripper, so please don't treat it like a tank. You can load it up on juice with about 8 to 10 drops dripped straight through the cap. I usually get about 6 to 7 long hits, and by long I mean 3 to 5 second pulls, and getting massive flavor, massive vapor out of it. Although it may tend to leak after, especially if you do it the way the cloud chasers do, that they blow into it like. You will most likely get some leaking around the rim. So I wish there was more to it than what I've mentioned, but it's a pretty much plug and play atomizer, with an exception of those few selective cons and that one prominent con that I mentioned. I really don't have much negative to say about it. Like I said, it ranks way up there. It's probably king of the hill for me right now in terms of flavor retention. It's just massive. And although I do enjoy chasing clouds from time to time, I still want to get decent flavor. And it's pretty versatile in the sense that I built this for flavor, or rather for vapor, but I'm getting a huge amount of flavor hit from it. Nicotine delivery, retention, it's all there. So this is, well, yeah, it's one hell of an atomizer. So I got to give major props to the Paradigm team for coming up with this. This is some really awesome shit you guys put out. So that's basically the Vengeance for you. Price point and all that, I'm gonna just put it in the description. Have this out in a bit, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys decide to pick one up, I'm also gonna put a link to their tech support page so you could get if you need replacement parts, extra parts, or whatever, you can PM them there. So that's the Vengeance by Paradigm, and hope y'all had a blast. Y'all vape hard, people. Cheers.